Today we're going to be talking about 8.4, writing and solving proportions. I want to give you a definition of proportion. A proportion is two ratios that are set equal to each other. And I have an example here, which looks like 1/2 equals 3/6. But there's a specific way that I want us to be reading this. Basically, when we have something that looks like this is read as 1 is to 2, as 3 is to 6, okay? So that's two proportions that are set equal to each other. The first thing that I got here for you, it says use equivalent ratios to solve the proportion. I want you to use your red pen and circle these two words, equivalent ratios. Today I'm going to show you a couple different ways to be able to solve the proportion, but for this first example, I want us to do 3 problems that we're using equivalent ratios. So here's what's going to happen. The first thing you want to do is look to see which fraction do you know both the numerator and the denominator. Do I know what both the numerator and the denominator are in this one? Yes. Do I know what they are in this one? No. So the first one, I know both the numerator and the denominator. So we're trying to figure out what y equals. So I've got to figure out how to get from 150 to a y. The way that I can do that is by looking at the denominator. The denominator, I have a 30 and I have a 60. You either have to multiply a number or divide a number to get from this one to that one. If I'm trying to go from a 30 to a 60, do you think that I need to multiply something or divide something? You've got to multiply something because you want that 30 to get bigger. 30 times what number equals 60?
2.
Times 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on bottom. If I do by 2 on bottom, what do you think I have to do to the top?
2 on top.
Times 2 on top. So we know that 30 times 2 equals 60. Now we know 150 times 2 equals what? 300. So directly underneath it, all you're going to do is y equals 300. And that's your answer. Now, there is going to be a way that you can check it. I want you guys to go ahead and put this right here into your calculators. Put in 150 divided by 30.
Fraction form?
Yes, in fraction form, or if it comes out a whole number, that's fine too. What do you get? What's 150 over 30? 5, okay? So I know 5 equals, now we have to take this and plug it in up here, 300 over 60. What is 300 over 60? 5. Does 5 equal 5? Yes, so it checked out. Our answer is y equals 300. Now, you don't have to write this part down on your homework or classwork or things like that, but that is a way for you to plug it in to see if it worked out or not. Let's go to the next one. Which fraction do I have both the numerator and the denominator? 7/8 or 21 over x? 7/8. So I have to figure out how to get from a 7 to a 21. If it starts out a 7 and it's going to a 21, will I have to multiply or divide? You're going to have to multiply. Times what number?
3.
Times 3. If I times 3 to the top, I have to times 3 to the bottom. Go ahead and plug that in, and then you write down what x equals. What does it equal?
24.
X equals 24. Now, once again, I want you to plug it in to see if those two are equal to each other. So let's plug in this right here, 21 over 24. Put that into your calculator, and what do you get?
0.875.
Okay, what do you get as a fraction?
7/8.
7/8. Is that the same thing as that right there?
Yes.
Yes, so 7/8 equals 7/8. So it checked out, and you know you did it right. Now let's go to the next one. 2 is to m as 8 is to 16. Which one do I know both the numerator and the denominator? The first one or the second one? 8 over 16. So that means I have to figure out how to get from an 8 to a 2 in order to figure out how to get from a 16 to an m. So as I'm doing that, will I have to multiply or divide to get from an 8 to a 2? You have to divide. 8 divided by what number equals 2?
4.
4. So you are reading this backwards. You are reading 8 divided by 4 equals 2. Okay, so you're going backwards. So now 16 divided by 4 equals what?
M.
It equals m. So you tell me, what is m?
4 equals M.
Okay, m equals 4. Then once again, you can plug that back into your calculator to see 8 over 16, if you reduce that, equals a half. 2 over 4, if you reduce that, equals a half. So 1/2 equals 1/2, and that means it did check out. I'm going to teach you something different for solving proportions. This one, the instructions ask you to use algebra. The first one was equivalent fractions. Now we're going to be using algebra instead. If you remember when we did algebra before, the whole goal was to get what by itself? The variable. Do you see, what's my variable in problem A? X. What is not allowing X to be by itself? Divide by 25. What's the opposite of divide by 25? Multiply by 25. So I am going to multiply this side by 25, and to be fair, I now have to multiply this side by 25. What happens to my 25 over 25?
It becomes 1.
It becomes the number 1, so they cancel out. I'm left with only an X on this side over here. Now, what is 6 times 25? 150. So now we know X equals 150 over 10. What is 150 over 10?
15.
15. So X equals 15. In order to check that, you can plug back in this 15 right here to the original problem. Plug it into your calculator. What is 15 over 25? Okay, 3/5. Now go ahead and plug in this one, because you're saying that this one over here on the right side is 3/5. Plug in 6/10 into your calculator. 3/5. Does 3/5 equal 3/5? Yes, so you set them equal to each other, and using algebra, it did work out. Let's go over to problem B. The whole goal is to get what by itself? M by itself. Kayla, what's not allowing M to be by itself?
49.
Not just 49. What sign goes with that? Divide by 49. What's the opposite of divide by 49? Multiply by 49. What I do to one side, have to do to the other. So go ahead and do this on your own and see if you can find what M equals. What happens to the 49 over 49? It cancels out. What's 4 times 49?
480.
What was it?
196.
196 over 14.
Yeah.
Equals M. And then it equals 14.
Okay, M equals 14. Now I want you to try to go ahead and plug it back in up at the top to see if those do end up being equivalent to each other. Very good. Whenever you guys put those together, you found out 4/14 reduced to 2/7, 14/49 reduced to 2/7, and 2/7 does equal 2/7. So you found two ratios set equal to each other, and that's what a proportion is. Let's go to the next one. C over 27 equals 9 over 12, or C is to 27 as 9 is to 12. How do I get that C all by itself?
20 divide by 20.
Not divide by 27. Multiply both sides by 27. What you do to one side, you got to be fair to the other one, so do it to both. And I want you guys to find what C is. Okay, as you do this, you know that 27 over 27 is going to cancel out. What is 9 times 27? 243 over 12. What does C equal?
20.25.
20.25. All right, now, some of you were wondering about whether or not the C would be, what was the fraction that you had found?
20 and 1/4.
It was 81 over 4, okay? But listen, you cannot plug this in to right there, because if you did that, it would look like 81 over 4 over 27. You can never have a fraction as part of a fraction. You can't put a fraction in there as a numerator, okay? So that part would not make sense. But if I was to plug in this right here, 20.25 divided by 27, what do I get?
3/4.
3/4, okay? Now, if I take this 9 over 12 and reduce it, what do I get?
3/4.
Does 3/4 equal 3/4? Yes, so you know it did check out. All right, you don't have to show me the checking work, but I like you to do that in your head at least to just double check your answers. Let's go on to the next one. Number 3, write and then solve the proportion. Who can help me out with how to write this as a proportion? Mason, what do you think?
6 over 4
6 over 4
equals X over 8.
equals x over 8. Excellent job. Now, I do not care which way that you guys come up with doing this. If you want to do it with the equivalent ratios, that's fine with me. If you'd rather do it with algebra, that's fine with me. But I want you guys to find this answer. What is x? 6 is to 4 as x is to 8. How many of you would say that you did the equivalent ratio way? Okay, if I do that, 4 times what number equals 8?
2.
4 times 2 equals 8. If I do times 2 on bottom, I've got to do times 2 on top. And what's my answer?
12 over 8.
X equals 12.
X equals 12. I only want to know what the x equals. Was there anybody who did it the algebra way? Okay, so I'm going to show you also that way, and I do not care which way you do it. How do you do the algebra way?
You do 8 times.
8
8
times.
times 8. Yeah.
Okay, multiply both sides by 8 so that you can get rid of that.
That's just extra work.
And then you've got 48 over 4, and what does that equal?
And this,
It's 12.
X equals 12.
yeah.
So no matter which way you did it, you did find that the answer was 12. Okay? One last one that we're going to do today. The average person blinks about 420 times in 14 minutes. About how many times does a person blink in 6 minutes? So we've got to come up with some way to write a proportion. Who can help me out with how to write a proportion? What do you think?
I think it's 420 over 14.
Okay, give me units with it.
420 blinks.
Or times per.
Per 14 minutes.
Okay, now I got to write an equivalent ratio equals, what other facts does it tell me in the story problem?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So should I put my minutes on the bottom or on the top? On the bottom. Because I had minutes on the bottom on the other side, I've got to have minutes on the bottom on this side. What variable should I put up on top?
X.
Okay, we'll use x. It does not matter to me which one you use. But now I want you guys to find out. 420 times is to 14 minutes as x is to 6 minutes. What do I have to do to get x by itself?
Multiply by 6.
Multiply by 6 on both sides. That's going to cancel out right there. I'm going to multiply by 6 over here. What's 6 times 420?
2,520.
2,520 times per how many minutes? 14 minutes. Now you're going to find that answer equals x. What is 2,520 times divided by 14 minutes?
180.
180. Now, 180 what? Is that 180 times or 180 minutes?
Time.
Listen, up here, if you look, my whole thing I'm trying to find is x. It needs to be the same thing as that, so it's going to be 180 times. Now, if you get to this point and you're like, I have no idea what I should write as my units, go back to your question. Your question asked about how many times does a person blink in 6 minutes? So the answer should be 180 times. Okay? So that right there is everything that you need to know for our lesson today about writing and solving proportions.